Hey, we're back at it. It's Sunday. That means Brendan and I are having another discussion. We've already been going at it for the past couple hours during dinner and watching some football, but we're going to capture it live right here.
Yes, yep, back again for another week. We enjoyed doing these. We hope that you enjoy listening to them as well. This week the idea was more we're going to ask each other questions or go over quotes or whatever we want to talk about. The other person doesn't know what the other person has in store. And then we'll just have one of our spirited debates that we usually have off camera, but hopefully we can capture it on camera. So that's what we have in store for this week. So, should we just start with that, or do you want to recap the week?
I think we'll do a quick recap of the week. Just give a couple key highlights. Maybe if you want to start out, was there anything big for you?
Yeah, so this was my third week of the Nick Bear Go One More program. So Nick Bear is an entrepreneur. If you don't know him, highly recommend checking him out. Former Ranger, has his own supplement company, and he's all-around beast. So he has this program where it's a combination of running and weightlifting 6 days a week. It's really hard. I'll have cross-country style workouts and then 60 minutes in the weight room. So it's pushing me, but it's what I need because I love running and I also want to get stronger. Hopefully by the end of this year, I will be able to bench 225 at least 6 times, maybe 10. Six is just my goal that I set. And then I also want to be able to squat 315 at least one time. This has been the first year that I've been consistent with weightlifting, and I'm starting to see improvements, which is awesome because I didn't do any weightlifting up until now, really, and I really know what to do. So this program's been awesome.
Yes, you've been working extremely hard. Just to break it down, Brent's pretty much doing an hour run, an hour of lifting, and then an hour of boxing most days of the week. Yeah. So it's a heavy workload, and he's been staying focused. It's awesome to see.
Yeah. So that's what I've been up to, and then just working. So it's been good.
Yes.
What about you?
Pretty much same here. I've been taking it easy this week after the ultra marathon. Just do a little shorter workouts in terms of running, biking. A very intense one actually yesterday with Jerry down at the track. So if you've ever heard of Jerry Nvule, he does a great job. He's an entrepreneur as well, and he does a lot of cool things when it comes to cybersecurity. So We're always rooting for him. He gives us some good advice, and he's just a good guy that we've known playing sports and growing up.
Let's go. Yeah, so Jerry's, I haven't really met him too much, but follow him on Instagram and social media, so definitely doing the right things.
Yeah, good football and lacrosse player back in the day. Very, very good. And he's just a great athlete. He was beating me in the track workout yesterday and pushing me to another level.
Heck yeah, that's what it's all about. All right, so we'll get started. So the first quote, I actually heard this today. Listen to a Nick Bear podcast. Guy drops knowledge bombs. Definitely recommend checking out his book and his podcast. Fire. But he had this guy on. His name was Jeremiah Sullivan, former Ranger, badass, and he said, think of things as an investment, not as a sacrifice. And this really resonated with me because what he was saying is when you do these hard things or things that you don't necessarily want to do, don't think of it as a sacrifice, because if they align with what you're trying to achieve, you're investing in that goal. So if your goal is to become a better runner, those early morning runs that you don't want to do, it's not a sacrifice. You're investing into your goal that you want. So if you want to run a marathon, that's your goal. So all the runs leading up are just investments so that you can do that. And that applies to anything. So if you look at things not as sacrifices, but as investments, I think it's more of like a positive thing, because when you think investing, you think of investing money, which is earning money, whereas sacrifice is kind of a negative thing because you're losing something to do something else. But if these things that you're doing are adding to what you want, it's an investment. So I guess if the things that you're doing now, you feel like you're missing out on other things, then maybe you're not fully in tune with what you're doing, and you might want to rethink your goals. But I just thought that was really cool. What do you think of that?
Yes, I think it's a really good quote, and I think it's more difficult to turn an activity into an investment than it might sound at first, because you really have to be true to yourself and say that this is a goal that I have, and make sure that your daily habits align with it, because it's not always easy. If you're doing something that you don't want to do, I think it's a good coping technique to say, okay, these are the benefits I'll have, these are the results, these are the payouts, the dividends, just like the investments.
Yeah.
But it can be really challenging, I think, sometimes to see that when you're in the moment. And I think it takes a lot of foresight to really be able to position it.
Yeah, and even just think, because you think of when I think of highly successful people,
Yes.
athletes, business people, they always say they have to sacrifice. But they've never said investing in themselves until now. So I don't know if people that are highly successful believe it's a sacrifice. I mean, I guess you're sacrificing other things to do something else. But I think if that goal you're achieving is really what you want, you're willing to make these sacrifices, and it's an investment in yourself. That's what I think. I'm going to start using that. So
I think so. I think we're going to have to pull out an economics term right here from
All right.
back in the days of UMass. I would say it's an opportunity cost. And in business, the opportunity cost is the next best thing that you could be doing with your time or your resources, but you're choosing not to do it for something else.
Yeah.
So someone has to think, what is the next best thing that I could be doing? And if that next best thing brings more value than the activity that they're doing, they should be doing something else.
okay.
So let's say if you're going for your morning run
Yeah.
and you think it's going to be more valuable instead to be working on a data management project. If you weigh them side by side, if the opportunity cost for that data management project ends up bringing more value than the morning run for things like health, fitness, and fun, then maybe you should switch your time. I think it's a tough decision, but it all comes back down to a cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah.
Some business terminology.
No, I know what it is, and it makes sense. But I also think it's hard to weigh the cost and the benefits in the moment if you don't have a clear picture of what you're trying to achieve.
I agree.
Because a lot of kids don't really like school, but they're
Yes.
told to go to school. But what happens if they do a opportunity cost benefit saying, this is a waste of my time, but I'm just here because everyone else does it.
Yes.
Do you think a lot of kids fall in that?
I think people bring it up a lot, and I think it comes down to questions that they have to ask themselves. Talking through this quote, the biggest thing is goal setting. I think it goes back to that, what do you really want to achieve? Because you could map it out, whether it's career earnings, whether it's experience, whatever metrics are going to apply to you, and they'll probably be different to each person.
Yeah.
But to really sit down and think, okay, do I want to keep going to school, get further education, or is there some type of job, experience, volunteer work, something that I could be doing that would be more meaningful?
Yeah, but I think it's also so scary to do what other people aren't doing. And I guess that's what separates the greats from the average, because it's scary to drop out of college if you don't think it's worthy. But yeah, like David said, you just got to figure out what your goals are and then what the actionable steps are to achieve it. I had a question for you. It just came up.
Yes.
Like, how far out should you goal set, you think?
I've heard a lot of people say 5 years. I have difficult times going to 5 years. I usually go for 1 or 2 years.
Okay.
And I'll say, okay, this is what I want to do this year. This is what I want to accomplish. And then hopefully it somewhat lines up with a longer 5-year goal. But I feel like that's tougher to set in stone just because so much happens in life.
Yeah.
And even just day to day, month to month, things change a lot.
Would you ever set, you kind of touched on it, but would you set a big goal 5 years and then smaller goals each year to achieve that 5 year? Or do you just have goals for that year and that's it?
Certainly. To break it down, I feel like in the next year, those are the goals I can forecast most accurately.
Yeah.
So in that year, I can say, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. But then I do think, okay, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, and out to 5 years, just where do I want to be? And I do keep those in mind, but I'm not as dedicated to them because I feel like they can shift more based on things I do in the next year.
Yeah.
How about you? How far out do you look?
I've been tackling with this idea recently because I just graduated college, and up until this point in my life, everything was mapped out semester to semester. You go through the school year, you get a job in summer, but now there is no map. So I've been I think that ideal way is like the 5 years where you have a big 5-year plan, and then each year you try to have small goals to achieve that bigger plan because you can't get that all in 1 year. But then I heard another person say that you don't want to put deadlines on dreams and goals because it creates anxiety and some pressure.
Yeah.
But then I thought of that and I'm like, what happens in high school? Like, your goal is to become a state champion. You only have a set amount of years to do that.
Yes.
So I don't know.
I'd say pressure is part of life.
Yeah.
You're just going to have deadlines. Things are going to come up. People are going to ask you to do things. You're going to ask people to do things. So you do need to have some concept of time, and it's going to be there. It doesn't mean it's bad. You can thrive under pressure in a lot of ways. It can bring out the best in you because I think we see it a lot. If you don't have some type of pressure, some type of stressor, you're probably not going to get as much done, but it's going to force you.
So then let's say you have a 5-year goal and you don't hit it. Do you continue trying to get it, or do you just give up and say like, hey, I didn't hit that. Because I was thinking, I don't know if this is true, but the guy that wrote Squid Games,
Yes.
the popular TV show, supposedly he was trying to get that approved for 10 years. So what happens if that was only his 5-year goal and then he gave up? Like, how do you know? I don't know. That's another thing I'm tackling with too.
I think you have to reevaluate it as you go because you can get signs. Maybe it took him 10 years to get fully approved, but maybe after a couple of years he received positive feedback and they want him to rework it. Maybe he had to write 5 seasons instead of just 1 season.
Okay.
So there could be intermediate steps along the ways. And I'd say it's like a decision tree where at every single decision node you can have multiple paths that you can take. And I think at each node you have to reevaluate it.
Yeah, that's another thing that touched upon in the Nick Bear podcast,
Yes.
actually, is that you might not know what you're doing completely, but as you go, you like you said, you have to reevaluate and fix your plan if it's not going according to it and see what's going right and go from there.
Yes,
So
I think
that's
it's
money.
big.
That's money.
It's one of the key ways to evaluate options. So whether it's a financial option or a real option that you have in life, you
Yeah.
can still evaluate it at each node
Yep.
and determine, hey, what's the value if things go well and what's the value if things go down, and just make a decision there. But one of the key components of that is every node is different, so you've always got to reevaluate.
Dang, that's good. That's good. Do you mind if I ask you one other question? Because it's kind of
Definitely.
related to this.
Of course.
Describe one thing you would like to change about your current self by the age 30.
By the age of 30,
Because this is coming from a book called The Defining Decade. Great book. It talks all about how your 20s are so important to setting up the rest of your life. It's not make or break, but it's at the end of the day, it's essentially saying don't waste time and just try to get better every day. Try to figure out your life
yes.
as quick as possible. Even though most people, I mean, that's tough. That's easy to say and it's harder to do. It's just saying don't waste time. You don't want to just be sitting around doing nothing. You want to try to do something at least.
Yes.
So this is a question from that book.
Okay, this is a good question because I'm 24 years old, about to be 25. So by the time I'm 30, that's pretty much right on a 5-year deadline.
Yeah.
So this will be a stretch goal, something that you really put out there. I would say by the time that I am 30, I really want to be in a role where I can influence a lot of people and make a difference in the world around me, particularly in the local community. So the town, the general area, and the region, because these are the people you see every day. We've grown up with them. They're good friends. And so I want to be able to make a real difference and be able to give back to them because so many people have helped me along the way. Mm-hmm. And I would say in the current work I'm doing, I'm helping people, but a lot of them are in different parts of the world. So I really want to come through and find something, whether it's a job, a role, or something that's going to change the world around me and make it more positive.
In what respect? Like in all overall? Or is it like help them financially, help them physically, mentally? Do you have an idea? I mean, it's a long way away.
I think the biggest thing, I'm wearing the Inspire shirt. I just want to inspire people to go after their dreams. I think motivation, goal setting, just different things that people use every day to approach, hey, what am I doing today, can be changed for the better. I think if people wake up, if they have a purpose, if they have something they want to do, like you're saying, if they say, hey, I've got these 3 tasks I need to do, so in 1 year and 5 years I can do this, I think it'll promote a lot of happiness because a lot of people, like you're saying, will lose their paths at all different stages in life. And I think the only real key thing that people have in common is that they want to be happy. I mean, some people are motivated by money, some people aren't. Some people are motivated by power, others aren't. Some people care about their family a lot, others don't spend as much time. There's so many differences, but just to help people find whatever's going to make their life good.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a big goal. Yeah, it's not greatly defined because it's 5 years out, but it's just something I know I want to play a big role in the community.
Awesome.
How about you, Ryan? Do you want to go after it? Something that you want to change by the time you're 30? It's a little bit farther out for you.
I hope we have 100,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel. That's something I've been trying to deal with recently is what I truly want. I know definitely in the next couple, I do know what I want by the end of the year is be able to bench 225,
Yes.
315 on the squat. But in terms of, that's the thing, I got to define what I really want so I can create an action plan instead of just wandering. I'm definitely getting more dialed into what I want because in college I felt like I was like this far all over the place and now I'm slowly. So hopefully I really guess got to do some reflecting.
Yes.
But yeah, I guess I hope I'm just somebody that my younger self would look up to.
Definitely.
So I'm just become more confident physically, mentally, read more. I just become a beast. That's it. That's it.
I think it's big because talking about your younger self, we are actually just watching some highlights of Brent playing Call of Duty back in the day. And you think about it, that was probably 10 years ago now.
Yeah, it was.
But just to say, hey, would myself 10 years ago be happy with what I'm doing now as a guiding force?
Yeah.
I think I've got a question right here as well. So yesterday, Brendan and I were rewatching some scenes from The Gladiator.
Yeah.
And the main character is pretty much on a hero's journey. And he's guided by a lot of principles. One of the main ones is doing the right thing. Another one is just staying strong. But probably the biggest one is caring about his family and doing what's right for them. So I want to ask you, Brennan, if you were to put yourself in the hero's role in your life, what would be your guiding values that are going to carry you through the tough journey?
Dang.
It's a deep question.
Well, I am in my own hero's journey.
Yes.
Because this is another thing we talk about. Because Joe Rogan, I know he said on his podcast, he said, act like you are the hero in your journey. Because you are. You have the power to change what you want in your life. I believe that.
Yes.
And as if there's a movie camera following you around so that it kind of is the guiding force of what you do and don't do. But I would say the biggest things for me is, I don't listen to my Jiminy Cricket. No, it's listening to my conscience, my gut, because deep down I know what is. If I do something that's not right, I can feel it, and man, I guess I would just be kind, help people. My family would be a guiding force, trying to do the right thing or what I thought was right. I guess what do I live by now is the question.
Yes.
Question is, I live by consistent effort. I live by honesty, telling the truth. It's huge. I don't believe in lying. Being loyal. Dang.
They're all key qualities. Could you pick out just one that's most important? I feel like you've hit on about 10 that are really strong, but do you think there's one that you resonate or relate to the most?
It's hard because I'm in the middle of the journey, so I don't see the end.
You don't get to see the final scene.
I don't even know if I'm a hero. So it's tough because I'm right in the middle. But I guess right now the biggest guiding factor in my life is to be consistent and not waste time, because it's so valuable. Like, time is our biggest asset. Yes. And if you waste, there's times to like relax and have fun, but I got to spend the majority of my time feeling productive, and just trying to achieve something out of my life. Yeah. So I guess the biggest motivating factor in moral compass is time, and not to waste it. And doing something that makes me feel like I'm progressing in my life and going towards something that I believe is worthwhile.
Yes.
And trying to find a purpose. So I guess I am on that hero's journey, trying to find my purpose and what I'll impact it or leave this world with. But yeah, I would say times, but I guess that's not like Gladiator.
No.
So
it's a tough question, but everyone takes a different path. And that's what it's all about. Yes, because Brand turned on Gladiator the other day, and it just really shows someone who is always doing the right thing. Although there's corruption, although people are doing the wrong thing around him, he perseveres time and time again when he has to. And he stays on his path, and eventually...
Yo, I had a trash answer.
Hey, that's what it's all about. Part of this is practicing how we answer questions, relate, speak publicly. And it's important just to think about these things. And that's why today, all the questions, I haven't heard Brent's questions. He hasn't heard mine. And so because of that, it's just, it's difficult.
Actually, I have the 3 guiding factors right here written down before we even recorded this, but it was from another podcast. I'm just looking at it and would answer Davis's question. 1, integrity.
Yep.
2, skill in whatever you do. And then being able to perform.
I see.
Keys. Dang. What about you?
Those are big ones. For me, my guiding factor is to do the right thing and inspire others to do the right thing. Because in most situations, you'll know right away what the right thing to do is. It's not always easy to do it. And I think it's even harder to help those around you choose the right things when there are other motivating factors whether they're personal or for someone else that you care about, you can be enticed to take the wrong path. But if you stay true to your course, I think that most people will live good lives. And I think if everyone lives a good life and tries to do what's right, then they'll help others around them as well. But unfortunately, so many times people make bad decisions and it harms those around them.
Yeah, but I mean, that's another thing too, is all these people talk about learning from failures and failures inevitable, trying to get to where you want to get to.
Yes.
And I guess as long as your failures don't derail your entire life, seek failure.
Go until failure, I think. Just like a weightlifting exercise. If you go until failure and you can't give any more, you'll recover and you'll be stronger than the past. But there's a point where you'll injure yourself as well, and it's too much.
Yeah, so you got to learn how to play with fire, but not get
Not
burned.
go too far.
It's just tough because it's not black and white.
I've got one more question as well.
All right.
It ties back to Gladiator as well, because the emperor in the movie is Marcus Aurelius, and he's a famous Roman emperor and philosopher, and he was supposed to be the original Stoic. Brennan's been studying Stoicism recently, where no matter what's going on around you, you are not fazed, you stay focused, and you don't let things bother you. So I want to ask Brennan, when you're faced with a difficult situation, are you able to be a Stoic, or do you become emotional, and what are the pros and cons of your approach?
I mean, I would say I'm trying to become like more stoic, but I haven't really been faced with these types of huge problems. Because I also hear all the military guys that I follow talk about it too, is that emotional decisions are the worst. Mm-hmm. And the best leaders are the ones that are, quote unquote, as cool as the other side of the pillow when everything's going wrong. But the only way to get to be like that is you have to put yourself in those situations. Mm-hmm. I mean, because if you've never been in a situation like that and you haven't trained your body to do that, it's going to be hard to not let your emotions, because there's so many things that are stirring up people's emotions. So I mean, I definitely made emotional decisions sometime, but I'm still so young where I haven't been in these high pressure situations. But I guess at work, when there's a situation, I try to be as non-emotional as possible and just try to weigh all the options and then try to make the best decision, what I think is the best decision possible. But I try to take a step back.
Yes.
I'm trying to, just because I hear that's what all the top leaders do. So I'm buying into that. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know. But
hey, there are no answers in this. It's an open question.
Yeah. I guess, what do you think?
Well, I received some interesting feedback once, and it was when we have to deal with clients at work, one big thing is to empathize with them. So if the client's upset and you're there just being stoic, if you aren't empathizing with them, maybe showing a little bit of emotion, they may think that you don't understand. So I feel like there are some situations where you have to balance emotion, because otherwise people might think that you're just flat out not listening to them or you don't care. But I agree, at the end of the day, you have to take all the facts as best you can. You might be constrained by time where it's difficult, and you may just have to make a quick decision. I also agree. It just takes experience finding what works for you, because everyone's style is different.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't done a ton of research into Stoicism. Dave's just brought this up because we were talking about it yesterday. But I don't think it's completely lack of emotion. Mm-hmm. I agree, you have to show empathy, especially if you're dealing with people. Yes. Just because people are so complex, and if you're trying to, let's say you have two parties that you have a vested interest in both of them, but they're disputing one another. I mean, yeah, you can empathize with both, but it's going to be really hard to make a decision because you want the best for both. But yeah, it's a balance. Like it's not cut and dry, but it just comes with experience too.
Yes.
Relationships, that's huge. But yeah, I mean, I don't have answers.
Yes, no one does. They're the big questions that everyone's trying to answer. And so far, we've done 5 questions. Do you have any more good ones? Anything you want to throw out there?
Let me see. I have another one from the book. I have them on my phone. Okay, do you?
No, those are my 2 questions I wanted to talk about, tying a little bit of history today, and just some things that really did come up.
Okay.
Yes, we were watching some movies yesterday. We watched Gladiator. We also saw a World War II film, which was interesting because it told a story from both sides. Yeah. So I think that goes back to your point. You see 2 sides where the people themselves are good, but they're in conflict for different reasons. And even though individually they're both good, you want them to, you want the people themselves to do well. They stand for different things, and they have to come to one outcome.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any other questions, but I have one thing to leave off that I learned today.
This is important.
From the same podcast from Nick Bear. But the guy he had on said, you have to have tough conversations with yourself and others. And the only way to get good at things is doing it repetitively. And that's how, kind of what we brought up about reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of times reflecting with yourself or trying to figure out what you truly want is a tough conversation. Or even like if somebody does something, like gives you the wrong food at like dinner.
Yes.
That's a tough conversation to be like, hey, can you please take this back because you don't want to be rude?
Yes.
Just like little things like that. Or just trying to talk with yourself like, oh, I don't want to run. And then you just got to ask yourself like, why don't you want to do this? Like for me, on this workout plan, some days I'll lay in my bed and be like, oh, I don't want to get up. But then I say to myself like, you got to. Yeah, just have tough conversations with yourself and other people. And that tough things don't just become easier, you just become more courageous, so they seem easier. It's not like the task became any easier, it's just that you don't find it as difficult to do it because you became more courageous. Does that make any sense?
I think so. Yes, it's just when you do something the first time, it's going to be an unknown. You're not going to be used to the variables, and you might be a little bit more nervous. But no matter what it is, if you do it over and over again, even if it's something that could be dangerous or scary, at the end of the day, you're going to get better at it.
Yeah.
It just takes consistency. I think that's a key word that you keep bringing up.
Consistency. That's it. Just day in, day out, getting it done. I'm really trying to practice that now. And hopefully it pays dividends in the future. 5 years down the line.
Investment in yourself.
I hope I'm doing that right now, investing in myself, getting after it every day. And we'll see what happens. We will see what happens.
And we'll be here each week. You know it. We're documenting our lives so that in the future we can look back and reflect on it. Just like today, we're watching some old family videos, and it really is special to be able to go back and see yourself.
Yeah, it's cool. Just seeing how you think and, yeah, basically what you're thinking at the time. Because you change. But I don't feel any... I'm definitely older than what we saw those videos from 10 years ago. But you're still the same kid in a way. So
yes.
It's cool.
You can see the old qualities.
But yeah, hope everyone kills the week. We kind of rambled, but...
Hey, that's what it's all about. This is what we want to do in this segment. Just go back and forth, ask random questions, and see what came of it.
Heck yeah. Well, all right. We'll see you next week, and next week's Halloween. So have a good Halloween and have a good time.
Hey, see you, everyone.